That was a big yeah,
Round of applause. Welcome, George.
It's truly a pleasure to visit the Great Rotary Club of Canfield today. It's my first visit to this club, and yet I sort of feel like I'm coming home because I do know so many of you and have worked with some of you in the past. Your history of service dating back to your chartering on the 20th of June in 1955 has made an impact near and far in the lives of countless people. Service is the basis of Rotary and a key attribute that separates us from other organizations. It's that dedication and commitment to service that drew each one of us to Rotary and that keeps us in Rotary. Another attribute of Rotary that makes us different from other organizations is our emphasis on our vocation and the core values of service, integrity, leadership, fellowship. It's our commitment to and adherence to these values that have kept Rotary strong for 106 years. We as Rotarians set a challenging standard for ourselves, and because we do not waver from it, the general public's perception of our credibility and trust are high and highly respected. We must never jeopardize that, and it's easy not to so long as we remain aware of and faithful to the four-way test of everything we say and think and do. 2011-12 RI President Kalyan Banerjee's theme, Reach Within to Embrace Humanity, verbalizes what Rotarians do through our humanitarian work in service to our clubs, our communities, and the world. Each time we take on a project to feed the hungry, or build a playground in our community, or bring safe drinking water to Kenya, or erase illiteracy in an Indian village, or immunize a child against polio in Pakistan, or supply medical equipment to a remote Guatemalan village, aren't we reaching within to embrace a portion of humanity less fortunate than we are? On a very personal level, I have been the recipient of that very idea of reaching within to embrace humanity. 10 years ago, I was walking back to my office following a Rotary meeting when I was struck and killed by a van. An off-duty paramedic at the scene reached within himself to embrace humanity by reviving and initiating what medical assistance he could until an ambulance arrived. It was an honorary Rotarian from my club who went to the hospital to identify me. It was medical Rotarians on duty at the hospital who quickly assessed that the gravity of my condition was beyond their ability to successfully treat. It was a race against time, and the odds were not in my favor. Within 30 minutes, they had me on a medical helicopter headed to Cleveland, where an hour later, 5.5 hours of emergency brain surgery by the best neurosurgeon in the region began. As my wife drove alone from a meeting in Columbus to the hospital in Cleveland, it was fellow Rotarians from my club who went to our home to pick up our son and to bring him to Cleveland to be with my wife. And when, after what the neurosurgeon could only describe as a miracle, that not only would I survive, but actually regain much of my former self, it was Rotarians who came to visit, both in the hospital and at home during the time of recuperation. So you see, I have truly been touched by President Kalyan's theme. After that fateful accident in November 2001, not so long after 9/11, I experienced survivor's guilt. Why did this miracle happen to me, and not to all those thousands of innocent people who perished at the hands of the terrorists? What had I done to deserve a second chance at life when they weren't offered one? Well, it didn't take me too long to realize that my second chance came with an obligation. And that obligation was deeper involvement in Rotary and more commitment to service above self. I joined Rotary more than 21 years ago. At the time I joined, Bryce W. Kendall, past district governor, RI director, and a trustee of the Rotary Foundation, was in our club. Here was a man who exuded Rotary's emphasis on service. His life was a shining example of what can be accomplished if we only are willing to serve. And it was he who inspired me to learn more about Rotary and to never retreat from the opportunity to serve. So I embraced Rotary and served my club in numerous positions. It wasn't long before I was serving at the district level, and it's been a great journey thus far. I am truly honored to be your district governor, and truly thankful for that medical miracle that happened a decade ago that allows me to continue to serve. President Callion named 3 emphases for the 2011-12 Rotary year: family, continuity, and change. He explains that family is the basis of all the goals we set. Continuity is important because there are so many things we are indeed good at, such as providing clean, safe water, supplying medical equipment, teaching people to read and write. He says we must therefore support the Rotary Foundation. Regarding change, President Callion expanded on his theme at his address at the International Convention in New Orleans this past May. He said, "I'm so fond of quoting Mahatma Gandhi, who said, 'You must be the change you wish to see in the world.' If we wish for peace, we start by living in peace ourselves, in our homes and in our communities. If we wish environmental degradation to stop, if we wish to reduce child mortality or to prevent hunger, we must be the instrument of that change. Rotarians believe in change, and that change, any real change, has to come from us, starting within us, inside each one of us. If what we want is a world with more kindness, more caring, more joy, and more love, well, if we want those things in our world, we have to put them there." So what is required of us to achieve the change President Callion asks? Just 2 things: members and money. You see, Rotary only exists because of its members. And Rotary can only undertake projects when there are sufficient funds available to make those projects a reality. I concur with President Callion and believe deeply that it is the personal and individual responsibility of every Rotarian in this club, throughout District 6650 and around the world, to grow our membership base and increase our support for the Rotary Foundation. Eradication efforts now cost approximately $1 billion annually. Gates says that Rotarians are the people who are capable of mobilizing others. We are the people who leaders listen and respond to. With our credibility, we are the world's most important advocates for polio eradication. Outgoing General Secretary Ed Fuda noted that Rotary's work to eradicate polio has transformed Rotary from a valuable, but sometimes undervalued, community service organization into a key player in the world of international health and development. It has helped us to form dynamic partnerships with prominent international organizations, such as the Gates Foundation, the World Health Organization, the CDC, UNICEF, and USAID, to name just a few. We are trusted by governments and local authorities, and our international presence is unparalleled. No government, no NGO, no individual has Rotary's reach or Rotary's incredible potential. That power and influence comes from each of you as individual Rotarians. I ask you to double down on your efforts to grow your membership. Do you know that 90% of the world's Rotarians have never proposed a new member? It's not hard. It just takes commitment to seek out worthy individuals in our community, ask them to a meeting to learn what Rotary is all about, and then invite them to join. And it is an obligation of new members to bring in another member, by the way, if you haven't already been told that. We all know from personal experience that the benefits must exceed the costs, or we will not stay with any organization. In the business world, an unsatisfied customer will leave and take his or her business elsewhere. There are costs of being a member of a Rotary Club: time, money, and energy. But think of the benefits: the networking, the fellowship, the personal and professional growth, and of course the greatest benefit of all, the opportunity of serving others. In our fast-paced electronic world, RI Director John Smarge says, "We have the opportunity of helping the younger group discover how satisfying it is to replace Facebook time with real face time. We can watch as their expressions change when they experience the energy of a firm handshake and a friendly smile, compared to an impersonal digital text or tweet. So I urge you to commit to growing your membership. In June, we compiled all the club's goals across our district, and our district has committed to a net gain of 175 members this year. Canfield committed to a net gain of 1, and I urge you to try for even more. Reach out to the district membership co-chairs, Ted Miller and past District Governor Doug Simpson. They have resources available to help you achieve your goals. The second key component to Rotary success is greater support for the Rotary Foundation. It was at the 1917 International Convention in Atlanta when RI President Arch Klump from Cleveland suggested that we should accept endowments for the purpose of doing good in the world. That kernel of an idea germinated into the Rotary Foundation. Klump said money alone does little. Individual service is helpless without money. The two together can be a godsend for civilization. And again, you only have to look at our polio eradication efforts to know that Klump's view was then and remains now accurate. The Rotary Foundation is recognized as one of the world's best and most cost-effective foundations. Charity Navigator just released a report that ranks the Rotary Foundation number 3, not so much for the amount of money we raise, but what we do with the money we raise. Its unique structure enables a small amount of local funds to be leveraged into a large amount for projects around the world. Even better is that half of what District 6650 contributes to the annual programs fund is returned to the district 3 years later for local projects through District Simplified Grants, our Ambassadorial Scholar, GSE teams, and more. District Foundation Chair Meena Patel is eager to work with any club to further expand their participation and knowledge of the Foundation. Canfield Rotary contributed $3,345 to the Foundation last year, and I thank each of you for that contribution. I challenge you to increase your giving, especially to the annual programs fund, because the more you give, the more is returned to the district 3 years later. Contributions to the $200 million Polio Plus Challenge are also critical. Of that $200 million, we have now raised $182.3 million. The more exciting news is that to date this year, there has only been one case of polio in India. There have only been 274 cases of polio worldwide. Folks, we truly are this close, and we must finish that last 1% to end this disease once and for all. A contribution to the permanent fund is an investment to provide in the future. It doesn't cost you anything out of pocket now because it's part of your estate planning. We like to call it a dead giveaway. My hope is that each of you will be the agent for change in your club and your community that President Callion asks us to be. Don't hesitate to ask for assistance from any of us at the district level. We are here to make you successful and help you in any way we can. Rotary is only successful because all 34,000 plus clubs around the world are successful. President Callion urges us to go ahead, first reach within yourself, and then move on confidently, firmly, toward the targets you have set for yourselves. Discover yourself, develop the strengths within, and then unhesitatingly, unflinchingly, go forth and encircle the world to embrace humanity. Rotary has a great history, but there is so much more we can and must do. All we have to do is to reach within to embrace humanity, and then there's no limit to what we can achieve in the name of service. Thank you.
I think you will agree that we are blessed with a wonderful district governor with real vision and lots of energy to help us to do our job better. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate all that you do for us.